Hello and welcome to the Soul Ashraya podcast, a weekly bhakti podcast where we seek the shelter and wisdom of our dear Lord Krishna through Shastra, prayer, and conversation. I'm your host, Bhakti Jake, and with me is my friend and teacher, Balaram Shakti Das. Hare Krishna. How are you, my friend?
Hare Krishna. Doing very well.
Good.
How are you?
Good. It has been absolutely beautiful weather up here in Rochester. Starting to warm up. It's so nice outside right now. How are things in Arizona?
They're starting to warm up too, but in a different kind of way.
It's not 70 degrees, it's like 110 degrees.
No, not quite. Thankfully, we're not there yet. We're getting like mid-90s. What's that?
It's the dry heat.
Yeah.
They call it the dry heat. Oh, it's okay. It's the dry heat. I love that. Oh, yeah. No, it's really nice. It's the dry heat.
Honestly, I'll take that above humid heat any day of the week.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, when you can't actually like be dry, like not covered in sweat, that's just terrible. And then skin conditions can develop, it's not fun.
Yeah. Well, we love the wet heat up here in New York. I tell you what, we just love it.
Well, it doesn't get over 100 degrees though very often.
Yeah, usually it's topping out at like 85. I can't even hardly remember anything. I know, but it's like 50% humidity at 85 degrees. So it's still like pretty.
Yeah. No, it's still super hot.
Yeah. So, but that's the East Coast for you, that's the whole East Coast. The whole East Coast is like that. From Florida up to Vermont and Maine, it's just humid. So I wanted to open up with some invocations, and let's get right into the word. We missed yesterday, last Saturday, but I am just so pumped up to get right into the word of the Lord with you today. I'm really excited about it. I've got some things cooking in my mind that I want to talk about. So
great.
If you want to lead us in invocations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshitarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Oh, Jayo Sri Krishna. Hi. Okay, so welcome, Chris Casales.
Kirtan's here.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. How are you?
Good. Fantastic. Happy to be here.
So great to have you. What a great surprise.
Yeah, I'm usually busy, so today I'm not so busy. So
awesome. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, couldn't be better. Practicing bhakti.
Yeah. Are you in Arizona too?
Yeah. Me and Balaram are like about 50 meters away right now.
50 meters.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are like super close.
I didn't know he'd be on. I could go over to his room.
No, this is good because we don't have to do the feedback squidge thing.
Yeah, that's true.
The microphone hokey pokey. The camera microphone hokey pokey. So, how familiar are you with the Krishna book, Prabhu?
Pretty familiar. I've read it probably 4 times.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you probably know right where we're at and what we're doing then.
Where are we at today? I'm not actually entirely sure.
We are actually. Oh, go ahead, Balram. You tell him.
Page 6.
Where is that? I'm on my computer. I'm reading off my computer.
Okay. Yeah. So, introduction. This book, Krishna, which is filled with Krishna. Let's see. We got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs from the end.
Yeah. I have it.
Yeah.
This book, Krishna.
Yeah.
I have it marked for today at starting with King Pariksit.
Did we do that paragraph? I don't know. We didn't do this paragraph.
Yeah, I don't think we did. I think that
preceding one. Yeah,
there's going to be a shift. I think it's going to change, and so we saved this one for today. I think is what the thing was.
So I also wanted to take a half step back because this point here we didn't get into where Prabhupada italicizes. So this is the second to last sentence. In the Bhagavatam, it is said that if one hears the pastimes of Lord Krishna with the gopis from authorities with submission, then he will be promoted to the platform of transcendental loving service to the Lord, and the material disease of lust within his heart will be completely vanquished. Yeah. So since we have Kirtan Ashraya here, Prabhu, if you could please elaborate on this point, the importance of hearing from authorities, the importance of hearing with submission, and in particular, in regards to the subject matter of the Krishna book.
Well, it's a good question, a good point to bring up, because just like anything, there's a certain qualification to understand certain knowledge, to be initiated into the secrets of any area of knowledge. One has to have particular qualifications. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So one has to pass certain tests to get into certain colleges. In other words, they have to have a certain qualification. Also, there's a behavioral qualification. One has to have a certain achar in order to go to certain schools. So when it comes to spiritual knowledge, there's also some achar, some behavioral qualifications, and some knowledge qualifications that one has to have to enter into the understanding of spiritual subject matters. So when Prabhupada's saying from authorities with submission, we have to understand who is an authority. If you want real knowledge to become a doctor, you have to approach a doctor, someone who's an authority on medicine, who learned from another authority on medicine. So in the same way, spiritual subject matters are also received in that way. One has to approach a spiritual doctor or someone who's qualified, who's learned from a qualified source in order to receive that knowledge. And one has to come with the proper behavior. Also, it's good to point out that, when you accept God, like George Harrison in the beginning of this, he said, come at this with an open mind. So we're coming at this with the idea that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So now you're accepting God and you're in a relationship with him. Everything's connected to God. So in our dealing with him and the way we approach this knowledge, this book, these things, we have to do it in a pleasing way. So in any type of thing we want to learn, we have to have a pleasing attitude towards our teachers. If we're ungrateful, if we're nasty, then we're not likely to get the teacher's favor. For example, there may be two students taking a class in high school. One student is very obstinate, rude, and mean toward the teacher, however intelligent he may be. And the other student also is intelligent, but he has a very positive attitude. So when the time comes to finalize grades, both of them need some extra credit to get a certain grade. But the one who had the proper attitude and who was favorable, who had a favorable attitude toward the teacher, he's likely to get the favor of the teacher, to get the opportunity to do extra credit. It's just the way things work in this world. And that also applies with Krishna. Krishna says, I envy no one, I am equal to all. But to my devotees, I'm a friend. So Krishna is equal to all, but to his devotees, he gives them special knowledge. So we're learning this high level information from devotees of the Lord about the Lord. So that's what it means by authorities. And with submission, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena seva. So we're inquiring with the idea that we don't know. We're inquiring from someone. If you're going to inquire, that requires some humility. You can't demand information. You're inquiring. So on a spiritual platform, that means there's blessings that are being given. So this knowledge is not just words. It's not that these transcendental subject matters are just words being spoken by one person to another. There is also understanding and realization that's contained within the sound vibration. And in order for us to access that, one has to have the proper reciprocal. Or the mercy is raining down like torrents of rain, but the heart has to have the proper container to catch it. So when it comes to the rasa dance, which is the highest spiritual pastimes, one has to be able to hear from those who are pure, those who understand this in reality, and one has to have submission so that they're able to get the blessings, the grace of these great souls so that they can understand. And in that way, it'll work on the mind. So from authorities and with submission, it's just like anything in the world. We approach someone who has knowledge in a submissive way. If we want to learn, it's just intelligent. So by that way, Prabhupada says, we'll be promoted to the transcendental loving service to the Lord. And the material disease of lust within the heart will be completely vanquished. So, yeah. Is that good?
Oh, yeah. So it's really kind of a, you want to approach the Lord with a humble heart. You want to have that humbleness. I think that's what you were saying was kind of a key point, was you can't be like, the smart guy, quote unquote, in the classroom, like slagging everyone off, or like disrespecting the teacher. But I guess it comes with like, it starts with you have just a submissive heart towards the Lord, Am I understanding that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
We need to feel that we can't do this on our own.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's what Krishna's bought by that attitude. And also it's just common sense that, we can't go and demand to see the president at the White House door. But if we go through the proper channels, we may be able to get some audience with the president. But that requires us to submit to the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That means if we really want to see the president, we have to be humble enough to accept that there's a process and go through it.
Yeah. And I would assume that there is indeed a process in this day and age. And so I guess let's learn about the process here. That was so great, Kirtan. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're here. Balaram, do you want to start reading, or do you want someone else to read? Whatever you want to do. Go ahead.
All right, yeah, I'll read.
Yeah.
This book, Krishna, which is filled with Krishna Katha, will thus appeal equally to the liberated souls and to persons who are trying to be liberated, as well as to the gross conditioned materialists. According to the statement of Maharaj Parikshit, who heard about Krishna from Shukadev Goswami, Krishna Katha is equally applicable to every human being, whatever condition of life he is in. Surely everyone will appreciate it to the highest magnitude. But Maharaj Parikshit also warned that persons who are simply engaged in killing animals and in killing themselves may not be very much attracted to Krishna Katha. In other words, ordinary persons who are following the regulative moral principles of scriptures, no matter in what condition they are found, will certainly be attracted, but not persons who are killing themselves. The exact word used in Srimad Bhagavatam is pashugna, which means one who is killing animals or killing himself. Persons who are not self-realized and who are not interested in spiritual realization are killing themselves. They are committing suicide. Because this human form of life is especially meant for self-realization, by neglecting this important part of his activities, one simply wastes his time like the animals. So he is a pashugna. The other meaning of the word refers to those who are actually killing animals. This means persons who are animal eaters, even dog eaters, for they are all engaged in killing animals in so many ways, such as hunting and opening slaughterhouses. Such persons cannot be interested in Krishna Katha. So a really nice point that I'm getting from this is Prabhupada is speaking to the universal attraction of Krishna Katha that, as we've been discussing, that this sound vibration, this energy of Krishna is directly and immediately attractive to the soul itself. Surely everyone will appreciate it to the highest magnitude. And he's quoting from Srimad, or he's referencing, alluding to Srimad Bhagavatam, in which it is stated that those of any category in terms of what they're pursuing in life, those who are already liberated, those who are searching after liberation directly, as it were, and those who are not, interested in liberation, they're just interested in the gross materialist experience. This will be relishable. They'll be able to appreciate it. But the qualification is put here, just like Kirtaneshwar was explaining, if you don't have the right mood, right? If you don't have the humility, if you don't have the ability to think that you need God's help, right, you won't be able to learn. In a similar way, if you are actively engaged in killing either animals or oneself, then you won't be able to be attracted by this. And so this was interesting for me, because it's like Prabhupada is saying that, where does he say that about the script? Yeah, ordinary persons who are following the regulative moral principles of scriptures. So in another place, Prabhupada states that a Vaishnava, right? Vaishnava is the sort of umbrella category of the religion or the spiritual path in which Hare Krishna movement is found, right? So Vaishnava.
Right.
He defines Vaishnava in one place as anyone who is following a monotheistic, right, a real scriptural tradition. So that includes Christians, right? It includes Muslims, because they're following a scriptural tradition. You know, it's coming down a line of disciplic understanding of scripture. Of course, that disciplic line gets corrupted in many traditions, but he's saying here that, yeah, that is true, that anyone who's following these, you know, scriptural moral principles will be attracted, but not persons who are killing themselves. So the point is that most people don't realize, you know, persons who are not self-realized and are not interested in spiritual realization are killing themselves.
Yeah.
So it requires a bit of realization as far as what is the nature of myself and what are the ways in which I'm harming myself spiritually, right? And so this pashugna is a very interesting term, because it's sort of implying that people who are killing animals are, you know, they're also killing themselves. Of course, there's other ways that, but simply wastes his time like the animals. Right? So, yeah, the idea is like you're in this like animal kind of life by either just engaging in killing, you know, or sleeping, eating, mating, just these base activities. It means you're neglecting. It's not that those things are necessarily wrong, but you're neglecting the important activity of spiritual realization. So I guess the point is, if you have any sincere or genuine curiosity, right, to awaken, you know, spiritual understanding, Krishna will, you know, speak to you. He will attract you when you're exposed to him. Do you want to add anything to that, Kirtan? Was that right on? Or?
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. The only thing I would say is just, I mean, what I was thinking was, you know, that the point that came out to me was just that Prabhupada says you can't understand this stuff as an animal killer. And I find that so much of the time, being a preacher, I'm sure you've experienced this, that people come to Krishna consciousness within a year of becoming vegetarian.
Yeah.
And that to try to convince someone who's eating meat to take up Krishna consciousness is almost, it's like very difficult compared to someone who's a vegetarian, because their consciousness is just too low to understand these things. And the meat causes lust and attachment to sense gratification, because that's what the animal, you are what you eat, and that's what the animals are dealing with. That's the platform they're on. And, you know, their energy is a much lower form of energy. And it's just, you know, it's just amazing how right on and true that statement is. So some, so-called swamis, they say you can eat meat and still practice spiritual life, but according to Shastra and according to Srila Prabhupada, you can't. So nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% on that one. The strange thing in my case is that I came to Krishna consciousness and then went vegetarian. And it was, I guess it was, I would consider going vegetarian really a part of like kind of the salvation event, I guess you could say, like there's something about, there is just definitely something about eating pure foods and getting off of that meat. And I cannot believe what a difference it has on your body, on your health, on your mind. It's just, it is amazing what it can do. To be able to rise above the lust that comes at us every day as human beings. So, if you're out there and maybe you're watching this, maybe, I hope so. It is in most cases very hard for people to come to Krishna consciousness while eating meat, but there is probably that slim margin of people that like in my case, but I also had an insane hunger and drive to learn about Krishna consciousness, because I was just constantly one step away from like relapsing, because I literally had no no direction. I had no direction, no North Star to guide me. And that's exactly what Krishna consciousness has become, is the North Star, like the one thing that will always guide you in your life, so yeah. Okay, should we read a little more?
Well, I just wanted to say, kind of comment on your about sort of like giving up meat as part of an initiation. I found that really striking, because it really is like, for you to give up meat eating, coming from a culture such as ours, right? You're really going totally against the grain. You're kind of like opting in for counterculture, right? That your life is going to be guided on a higher set of principles. It's like you're entering into this other league in a sense. It's a totally different lifestyle, and just the fact that you're going against what the society is deeming to be morally sound or whatever, that's a huge step. It really does open you. It's like, okay, now I'm open to receiving guidance. And that was just so nice about the North Star. It's like, you might either become vegetarian or become straight edge, in some other way, in which you're abstaining or trying to break an addiction. But it's very difficult to maintain that, or it can, until you have that North Star, there's really every chance that you'll fall back into something, because you need a guiding principle in your life. So most people take that guiding principle as, well, no one has told me that meat eating is wrong, so therefore I'm just going to continue going about it, as just a totally normal part of life. And then once you find out that that's not food behind that counter, those are carcasses, you know, and you're imbibing suffering. It's not just gross matter that we're interacting with. There's also subtle energy that is in everything that we're, you know, interacting with. You know, our consciousness is touching that. It's like, you don't, you know, there's a barrier, you know, with your mouth. Like once you put something in your mouth, like you have to digest it. It has to like enter into you and pass through you. Whereas, you know, seeing things, we're also touching them with our senses, but we're not, you know, taking them into ourselves. So it's like, you know, that's a big thing. And once you stop that, once you kind of draw the line, which is like, these are the things that I do and do not take into myself, you know, it's that really, you're in a different gear now. And that is, if you don't have that gear, if you're just basing everything on anything goes, how are you going to possibly be able to ingest and assimilate spiritual subject matters? So that's really nice.
It's a fantastic thing when you tell people that you're a vegetarian and they have to right then and there give you 50 reasons why they eat meat, and you did not ask for them whatsoever. You know, it's like, you become like so separated from society just by simply not eating meat. You know, it's like, and a lot of the vegetarian stuff was really intertwined in the punk scene, really from the very early days of punk and hardcore, like back in the 70s. You know, people were starting to go vegetarian, and I realized that even in the early days there were a lot of people that went vegetarian and then got into Krishna consciousness that were in the punk scene and the music scene. And what it relates is to when you're fighting a war, there's dead bodies, and those dead bodies are like you know, you're not going to go out to a war zone and like get a dead body and eat it, but that is actually what you're doing when you go out and eat meat. You know, I think that was kind of like a lot of the early punk bands. I think that was kind of like their thing, that their concept of meat was that, you know, like the government I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much, but anyway, there's a lot of that stuff in the punk scene. So
just to clarify, it's not that, you know, like you said, you were eating meat and then you came to Krishna consciousness, but it's just like there's a cap. You know, it's not that one can't come to Krishna, like one could still be eating meat and then come to Krishna consciousness. The idea is that just like that's just one of the four regulative principles: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. You know, all those things have to be progressively let go of in order to really understand Krishna consciousness. But once you've dedicated yourself to the truth, even if you don't know what that truth is, you said you were searching for something higher. Once you've dedicated, once your goal of life has shifted from sense gratification to the truth, then at that time in your life, your choices change. Now you're willing to make choices based on finding the absolute truth. So if someone tells you, if you want the absolute truth, you have to give up eating meat, and you're willing to do that, then you can kind of go into the next stage. But say you get stuck on any one of those levels, whether it's meat or illicit sex or intoxication, or you don't want to chant, whatever level it may be, at that point, you're capped off from having full understanding because you're not at full surrender. So in one purport, Prabhupada says in this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma Swanishtita Pumsam Vishvakshena Katashaya, he says that, the purport of that verse, he says that when the goal of life becomes seeking the absolute truth, then naturally all the problems in the world be fixed, like overpopulation, you know, pollution, all these things are fixed because now we're no longer slaughtering animals. We're no longer traveling unnecessarily for sense gratification. We're no longer just having sex because of pleasure, just to have sense gratification. Everything has a purpose that's going to help me to find the absolute truth. So even if someone's still eating meat, if they decide they want the absolute truth, that's it. And so that's really the first decision. So it's not that one can't come to Krishna consciousness if they're eating meat. It's that one can't continue to understand Krishna consciousness unless they're willing to give that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. I just want to say one thing to that. 'Cause that's such a good point. It's not so much about what you're eating or what you're doing, like what the specific thing is. The essence of the principle is surrender. And so with Krishna consciousness, with the Hare Krishna movement, it's not just that we don't eat meat. There's certain things that we don't eat, but it's not about so much the implications that it has for health. That's definitely it's like we could say it just so happens that aligns, but the real essence of the principle is we're surrendering to what Krishna desires and what our spiritual masters have taught us that Krishna desires, and we're eating only that which Krishna eats. So it's like if Krishna only wants like rice and dal or like one thing like every day for like a whole month, that's all we're going to eat. It's not that, oh, like we can eat whatever we want so long as it's not this, this, and this. It's like, no, you eat what Krishna eats, and that brings you into again, that mood of submission and surrender. So yeah, the real thing is that you're surrendering to Krishna's diet. Not, and like we see this a lot with some devotees. They're like, their focus, like they're already vegetarian, but their focus is like, no, it has to be like all of these things that I consider healthy, that I feel are healthy, that like my body likes. It's like, okay, that's great. It's going to help you. But don't snub your nose at other people that are not eating those things, or even that are eating meat and say, well, you're not spiritual. It's like, well, those people that are eating meat might have a higher level of surrender than you, because you're not being vegetarian for the sake of surrender. You're being vegetarian for this selfish sense of like, this is what I like. What's the difference in you liking green foods and someone else? It's like, yeah, there is a qualitative difference, but the real essence that we're looking for is that you're open to aligning yourself with something higher. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about there, because there's so much of that in like the well, there is around here anyway.
Yeah, like people, they don't like chapatis or puris.
Yeah,
well, Krishna likes those foods,
Right, but it's also kind of the thing of, I'm going of someone saying, I'm a vegetarian and I'm going to yoga classes. They're like this close to Krishna consciousness, but like they're never gonna attain it because they just don't have like that little thing in their brain that's like, hello, like I need, I guess it's a thing in your brain that says like, like I'm at the end of my rope here. I need some help from like a higher power, like from God, I mean, there's a lot of people like that in this world who, they're on this bandwagon thing and they're doing it for health reasons or for trend reasons or whatever. And okay, so you can be a vegetarian, you can go to yoga class, and then after yoga class, you can go out and have a glass of wine with the ladies, and it's like this constant thing of like they're so close and yet they're so far away. It's so strange. I don't want to cut anyone off from talking, so if anyone wants to jump in here, you jump right in. Jump right in.
That was brilliant. Well, the next 2-3 paragraphs, I guess 2 paragraphs, are going to talk about Maharaj Parikshit and his taking to Krishna, his experience in hearing about Krishna and being open to Krishna. And this is this is relevant for 2 reasons. One is that this is setting the scene for the actual recitation of the Bhagavatam as we have received it in this version, the book that we have. It's centered around this discussion between Parikshit and his guru Shukadev. And the second reason is that, as you're saying, like, this is the quintessential or what's that word? The paragon. Maharaj Parikshit is the paragon of someone who is totally like, I need God. Like, I know he knew he was going to die in 7 days, and so he drops everything and positioned himself to the maximum to receive the word of God. So it's his example is particularly of interest to every living entity, actually. So when do you guys want to pick it up?
I'll read.
Yeah, you go right ahead, Kirtan. You go right
Maharaj
ahead.
Parikshit very much appreciated Krishna's activities for many other reasons. Not only was his grandfather saved by Krishna, but he himself also was saved by Krishna. By the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, all the members of the Kuru dynasty, both the sons and grandsons on the side of Dhritarashtra and those on the side of the Pandavas, had died in the fighting. Except the 5 Pandava brothers, everyone died in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Maharaj Parikshit was at that time within the womb of his mother. His father, Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, also died in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And so Maharaj Parikshit was a posthumous child.
I'm sorry, did you read the previous paragraph? Did you read the
whole paragraph? From the very beginning?
King Parikshit was especially interested in hearing Krishna Katha. Did I just space out?
Yeah, I think you did, because we're right on. We're right on. It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. We allow space outs. That's okay.
Wait, was I right? Was I right, or did I skip a paragraph?
No, you're right on.
I don't know.
You're right on.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I was spacing out on the screen, on the screen sharing. I clicked on the wrong screen.
Obviously, has a nice mountain.
So distracted.
Okay.
His
father, Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, also died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And so Maharaj Parikshit was a posthumous child. He was in the womb of his mother. A Brahmastra weapon was released by Ashwatthama to kill the child. When Maharaj Parikshit's mother, Uttara, approached Krishna, Krishna, seeing the danger of abortion, entered her womb as the super soul and saved Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit's other name is Vishnurata because he was saved by Lord Vishnu while still within the womb. What a cool name for a spiritual name, Vishnurata Das.
Yeah.
Continuing on. Should I read the 2 paragraphs, or should we just stop there?
I go right ahead. Keep on rolling.
Thus, everyone in any condition of life should be interested in hearing about Krishna and his activities because he is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. He is all-pervading. Inside, he is living within everybody's heart, and outside, he is living as the universal form. And yet, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, he appears as he is in the human society, just to invite everyone to his transcendental abode, back home, back to Godhead. Everyone should be interested in knowing about Krishna, and this book is presented with this purpose, that people may know about Krishna and be perfectly benefited in this human form of life. You have anything to say, Balaram G or Jacob Prabhu?
Yeah. I think, first of all, what is this Timingala fish that can easily swallow up giant whales? You know, is this the megalodon we're dealing with?
Well, that was before.
Yeah, that was that was what I was wondering, if we had read that paragraph. Okay, anyway, we might have skipped that. So basically here, like, when I hear this, it's like, it's hard for us to really wrap our heads around this. Like, we really have to put ourselves in Parikshit's shoes and just try to imagine how epic this story is. You know, imagine being born. First of all, I mean, it's even before that, it's like, imagine seeing God in the womb and like coming to full God consciousness before you're born. We literally can't imagine that, but we can at least try to imagine after having been born, growing up, hearing about your grandfathers as these great, most amazing heroes of this giant world war in which they were the survivors, and that you, as the sole heir, were this close to the dynasty being wiped out, and you survived. It's like, you know, classic, like, last of your kind trope, right? This like theme or genre, if you will, of being a sole survivor of a great race and inheriting the fullness of that race, of that dynasty. And you know, the entire Pandavas, all the Kurus, just passed on all their blessings to Parikshit. And so his whole childhood, he's hearing about his legacy, you know, the legacy of his dynasty. Yeah, and this epic war that was fought. Yeah, that's so it's pretty amazing. And so he was, Prabhupada's explaining, you know, the reasons that Krishna's activities were of particular interest for Parikshit. Yeah, he was saved personally. He and his grandfather, you know, his grandfathers really were saved by Krishna during the battle, and then at the end of the battle. Yeah, and then everyone should be interested in hearing about Krishna because he's the supreme absolute truth. He's all pervading. He's within everyone's heart. He's outside as well as his universal form. And he also appears. So Prabhupada has explained these three features of God, right? He's within our heart as Paramatma. He's all pervading outside as Brahman. And he's also has this third feature, which is particularly interesting and attractive, literally attractive to us as Bhagavan, when he appears in his transcendental form to invite us to his transcendental abode. And yeah, so this book is presented with this purpose, that people may know about this person, Krishna, this Bhagavan feature of the Lord, the Godhead.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But the real question is what is a Timingala fish? That's what I wanted.
That is, you know, it seems like it's pretty serious. Seems pretty serious. Not something to mess around with. If you guys don't mind, I think we could finish the introduction.
We're getting pretty close. All right, Jake, you want to read?
Yes. Let me hook it up on screen share for y'all. And I shall do this. And then that is such a great paragraph right there. Bless everyone in any condition of life. Everyone in any condition of life. That's a good paragraph. I'm starting here with what says the 9th canto. Okay, here we go. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Baladeva is described as the son of Rahani, a wife of Vasudeva. Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, had 16 wives, and one of them was Rahini, the mother of Baladeva. But Baladeva is also described as the son of Devaki. So how could he be the son of both Devaki and Rohini? This was one of the questions but by Maharaj Pariksit to Sukadev Goswami, and it will be answered in due course. Maharaj Pariksit also asked Sukadev Goswami why Sri Krishna, just after his appearance as the son of Vasudeva, was immediately carried to the house of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan, Guloka. He has also wanted to know what the activities of Lord Krishna were while he was in Vrindavan and while he was in Mathura. Besides that, he was especially inquisitive to know why Krishna killed his maternal uncle, Kamsa. Kamsa, being the brother of his mother, was a very intimate superior to Krishna. So how was it that he killed Kamsa? Also, Maharaj Pariksit asked how many years Lord Krishna remained in human society, how many years he reigned over the kingdom of Dwarka, and how many wives he accepted there. As a Kshatriya king is generally accustomed to accepting more than one wife. Therefore, Maharaj Pariksit also inquired about his number of wives. The subject matter of this book is Sukadeva Goswami's answering of all these and other questions asked by Maharaj Pariksit. The position of Maharaj Pariksit and Sukadeva Goswami is unique. Maharaj Pariksit is the right person to hear about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, and Sukadeva Goswami is the right person to describe them. If such a fortunate combination is made possible, then Krishna Katha immediately becomes revealed, and people may benefit to the highest possible degree from such a conversation. I'm going to hold it right there. Now, all these things, you see, I didn't even know that these things happened. And for a newer person, I certainly don't think that they're going to know about all these things.
You know, what I was thinking is these are all the things that would be common knowledge for that culture's lore. I mean, obviously this was common knowledge to him because he was inquiring about him, but also people, I think, nowadays who are brought up in India, especially in these provinces, would have heard these sort of things. This is part of the just general lore of like, yeah, Krishna was born to this person, but he's also the son of this person. He was brought, you know, out of Mathura to Gokula, you know, in his infancy, and then he killed Kamsa, and he had a whole bunch of wives. That's pretty much all they know. So this is very nice, just as it happens, that this is common knowledge in India, like in that culture, as just their general lore. But yeah, for those of us here, we don't have any understanding of these things. But either way, this book is going to describe Krishna's entire life in great detail. And basically, whether or not you know the lore, that lore is just that. It's lore. There's no actual esoteric or, deep inner meaning understood. Like, you go to India, you can ask 100 people if they know Krishna. Oh yes, I know Krishna. I know who Krishna is. I don't need you to tell me who Krishna is. It's like, right. Do you read Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, I read Bhagavad Gita. Have you read Srimad Bhagavatam? No need. I understand all these things. It means, they don't understand anything, because if they did, if you have actual understanding, you would never be satiated in hearing more, because this is what the soul actually wants to hear. It wants to hear about its beloved, it's the Lord and Master in the heart, the best friend, right? Our beloved one. Yeah. It's like when you fall in love with someone, you want to associate with them constantly. It's not just like, yeah, I know they exist and that's enough for me. Like, what? No, you don't understand them. Yeah, and then I love this second paragraph as well. If you have the right person to hear and the right person to speak come together, Krishna Katha will manifest. It's saying that, what is the right subject matter to hear and inquire, it can't be anything else but Krishna Katha. If it's not Krishna Katha, it means you still have not yet come to the topmost questions nor the topmost answers. So that's a really powerful statement there. Yeah. All right, what do you guys think?
What was it you were saying, Jake? I mean, I heard you say that you didn't know this happened. Were you talking about like the activities in Krishna? What was it you were referring to?
Just any of it, honestly, any of these things.
Just like when he's described
any of the details of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that was like a moment. This is your first time reading the Krishna book, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like it's like that moment. That's where I kind of had that experience reading this book. Like, like it really forces you to deal with this idea that God's a person. A person has a life just like you have a life. Like, I was born from this mother, and then my parents moved here and took me there, and I was away from my parents for some time, or whatever it may be, So in that way, Krishna also has pastimes, and it's a really heavy realization to come to that. And it's amazing. That's what really makes it amazing, is that we really like people. That's what people gossip. They want to talk about other people's lives. But the real perfection of talking about other people's lives is glorifying Krishna's life, eternal life, and the lives of the devotees of Krishna. Yeah. And that's why it's so exciting to read the Krishna book. Also, what Balaram said, what popped into my mind is like kirtan. That when you have the right person leading the kirtan and the right people in the congregation, there's a magical effect when you do kirtan that way. Versus sometimes you or someone may have too much false ego in their leading, and the people aren't so enthused to chant, and you don't get that same effect of that being revealed. Then the Krishna Katha immediately becomes revealed, and people may benefit to the highest possible degree from such a conversation. So in the same way, when we do kirtan, if you have the right chanter and the right hearers, then Krishna reveals himself. Yeah. And everybody who sees that gets benefit. Whereas if you have the wrong intention with a group of people that have the wrong intention, you don't get that nectar. You get a different ras. You get a material ras at best instead of a spiritual ras.
Yeah, it's that like special ingredient, that special mix of just the right ingredients and just the right people, I guess, would be the ingredients in this case. So Do you guys want to try to blast through the last two paragraphs of the introduction, or should we maybe?
It's up to you. I have time to finish the introduction.
We are so close. I kind of want to, even though
we should. It'd be better.
Yeah, even though we'll finish the last two paragraphs, and then we'll have a little more discussion, and then we will close out by reciting the Maha Mantra 3 times.
Okay, this narration was presented by Shukadev Goswami when Maharaj Parikshit was prepared to give up his body, fasting on the bank of the Ganges. In order to assure Shukadev Goswami that by hearing Krishna Katha he would not feel tired, Maharaj Parikshit expressed himself very frankly, quote, "Hunger and thirst may give trouble to ordinary persons or to me, but the topics of Krishna are so nice that one can continue to hear them without feeling tired, because such hearing situates one on the transcendental position," end quote. It is understood that one must be very fortunate to hear Krishna Katha as seriously as Maharaj Parikshit did. He was especially intent on the subject matter because he was expecting death at any moment. Every one of us should be conscious of death at every moment. This life is not at all assured. At any time one can die. It does not matter whether one is a young man or an old man. So before death takes place, we must be fully Krishna conscious. At the point of his death, King Parikshit was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami. When King Parikshit expressed his untiring desire to hear about Krishna, Shukadev Goswami was very much pleased. Shukadev was the greatest of all Bhagavat reciters, and thus he began to speak about Krishna's pastimes, which destroy all inauspiciousness in this age of Kali. Shukadev Goswami thanked the king for his eagerness to hear about Krishna, and he encouraged him by saying, "My dear king, your intelligence is very keen because you are so eager to hear about the pastimes of Krishna." He informed Maharaj Parikshit that hearing and chanting the pastimes of Krishna are so auspicious that the processes purify the three varieties of men involved: he who recites the transcendental topics of Krishna, he who hears such topics, and he who inquires about him. These pastimes are just like the Ganges water, which flows from the toe of Lord Vishnu. They purify the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Wow.
Wow. There's a lot there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just feel Prabhupada really, trying to enthuse us, inspiring us, like, please take this seriously, really focus, try to absorb this. There is nothing else that could be any more beneficial to you than attentively hearing about Krishna.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The Supreme Personality. Attaining the Supreme. Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts, Kirsaneshwar?
Well, one thought is Prabhupada says we should be conscious of death at every moment, and that's very powerful to understand. This life is temporary, and also that being conscious of death is also being Krishna conscious, because Krishna is death. Krishna is death personified in one sense. Death comes from Krishna, so that's understanding the reality, and being truthful is not being negative, but it's being positive because you're being truthful with the reality. And Prabhupada says, he wanted to hear these pastimes at the time of death because that's where we want to go. Krishna's pastimes, the activities of God, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So we want to be fully Krishna conscious at the time of death. That's the final exam. And so Maharaj Parikshit was untired and was going beyond hunger and thirst to simply hear, which me and Balaram are going to try to do on Tuesday. Near Jalakadasi. So we'll see if we have the determination.
You guys are getting ready to do a fast?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Near jaw fast, no water, no food.
Oh, really? Wow.
And constant chanting and speaking of Krishna.
Yeah.
Comes up once a year.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice that you bring that up, because that's exactly the state that Parikshit was in. You know, he was doing a total fast until death. And yeah, pretty intense.
But you guys aren't going to do that, right? You're just going to fast for a couple of days, right?
Just for 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Yeah.
Just one little day.
Like, hold on now. Hold on. Don't make me come
That's
out
what this book is saying to do. That's
This is just run. But I think it's just, the point that Prabhupada's putting in this whole, there's a verse that kind of sums up in the Bhagavad Gita. Or I'm sure knows it. Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veditat tvaktva deham punar janmo naiti mameti sarjana. He says that one who understands my activities, the transcendental nature of my activities and pastimes, upon leaving his body does not take his birth in the material world, but attains the spiritual abode. So that's the essence. And that's an interesting verse when you put it in the context of the Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita has some seriously practical verses, like, really practical, like, like how to meditate. That's very practical. How to perform karma yoga, how to become detached from the results of your work, how to surrender to God. That's even still practical. The modes of material nature. This is practical, logical information. But then there's this mystical type of verse. Yeah. And that's kind of the Krishna consciousness is in that same context that Krishna's talking about meditating. Krishna's talking about becoming detached, all these kind of like practical and universal spiritual topics we hear about. But then there's this mystical side that Krishna is assuring us that by understanding me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by knowing me, one doesn't take his birth again. When one understands my pastimes. And that's kind of the beautiful point that this book is meant to show and meant to get us to realize, is that Krishna says, Vedashta Shaviroham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Veda Vedeva Chaham, that all the Vedas deal with some stuff that's extremely realistic and scientifically, from like Ayurveda or Dhanurveda, the art of fighting. And these are real things that people are studying today and still getting benefit from. How to meditate, growing food, everything you can imagine is in the Vedas. But Krishna says the essence of all the Vedas is knowledge of me. So it's very confidential. It's confidential knowledge that by understanding who God is as Krishna, by understanding this, all knowledge is revealed. So to me, that was pretty mind-blowing when I was first coming to Krishna consciousness, is that like I was kind of into Buddhism and stuff. And, Buddhism is practical. It's like we're meditating, we're trying to clear our mind, but then there's this other, also it's a fact, but it's hard to understand unless you're willing to accept my authority that I'm God and I have activities in the material world that are completely spiritual. And if you understand them, you'll become the highest stage of enlightenment. And that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's kind of what this introduction is pointing to, is that we should want to understand the activities of God. We want to understand not just what God is. He's the source of everything. He's the big guy in the sky. We want to understand who God is. And that's how we actually go to loving him. That's how we come to a higher platform. We're understanding who God is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really is the linchpin verse, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. It's like people in general don't understand what is there to talk about so much with God. It's like, and I gave a class on this verse last weekend. So we talked a little bit about it last Sunday, yeah, last Sunday. But yeah, I think, isn't it just enough to know that God is, the creator, source? It's like, okay, yeah, he's up there. What does he have so much to do with this? And I don't, there is no urgency, understanding.
That's exactly what I was just gonna say. Is like through your entire life, you've never been taught this sense of urgency. Like, it's amazing how people just accept, well, hey, God did it. He's this thing that's up in the sky. No one knows what he looks like. He's like up there. But he does all these things in our lives. Oh, God did that. Did you see what God just did to us? Like when you're driving through the desert at 100 miles an hour and you spill all your cocaine. I don't know if anyone is going to get that reference. It's from a book, a Hunter S. Thompson book. So anyway, yes, the sense of urgency to actually know who God is, man, you really got me on that one. I'm sorry I put it in and interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, you actually completed that.
Yeah. It's so funny how, like, how these things work, and yeah, it's just like crazy to think like, oh yeah, it's just, I have no idea who he is. He's just there. Something, I guess I'll never know who he is. I'll just die not knowing who he is. I guess I'm okay with that.
Oh my God.
You're okay with that? Really? Okay. Wow. That is one step away from just pure atheism right there.
They don't believe in God. That's exactly right. They don't necessarily believe it.
That's it.
It's this. They say they believe in God, but what does that mean? I don't have any faith in God. I don't think he's doing anything. I don't give him the credit for anything. I don't have any desire to understand what that means to believe in a God. Yeah. I just want to identify as a person who believes in God.
Yeah.
Because actually, if one realizes, it doesn't matter what.
I don't see his existence.
If one actually realizes there's a God, whatever faith they may be, that fundamentally changes a person. There should be a fundamental change of consciousness when one understands there's a God. Now, everything is happening for a reason. Not only that, I mean, one can understand there's a God, but if someone actually has that experience where they have, they can have that experience, it doesn't actually necessarily mean that they're having it with us or, but they're having an experience that says, well, there's a God and he knows me. And it's kind of logical. If there's a God, he's full of love. That's what I want. I'm part of God. There's logical stuff. But when one has that realization, now on all stages, there's a fundamental shift in consciousness. Not only is there God, I should figure out who he is. That would seem like the intelligent thing to do. Because, what else is there to do? Enjoy, drugs and sex life? And that's all there is besides realizing there's a God. When one realizes there's a God, everything changes. Now I have to start thinking about things differently. I have to start asking questions. I have to start doing work. There's a fundamental shift that happens. So unless someone actually, like Prabhupada says, you're not a human until you ask, why do I suffer?
Wow.
You're just like an animal. Does an animal believe in God? I think an animal can maybe even have a conception that there's something in control. Maybe, I'm sure an animal might have the intelligence to ask, why is this happening to me? Or be sad about a certain event that happened and wish it didn't happen. If you take a dolphin's calf, the dolphin weeps. Yeah. I'm sure the dolphin is intelligent enough to think, I wish this didn't happen. But the human being could actually say, like, wait a minute, What's the problem here? Is there a God in control?
Yeah.
Is there something I can do? So, that drive changes someone. That's a fundamental shift. They had an experience with God. And last point I'll make is that my god brother Hamza Balaram, he's initiated by the same guru as me and Balaram, and he happens to also be for many years a priest in the Episcopal Church. So he was a priest in the Episcopal Church his whole life. He was dedicated to God, and then he became interested in Krishna consciousness. But he was explaining this in I went to his sermon actually, just to be a supportive friend. And there was a point in the Bible where, it was talking about some of these apostles that had never seen Jesus, or disciples of they were wanting to follow Jesus, but when they came in contact with Jesus, they changed. They were like glowing. And he was saying when one has an experience with God, it fundamentally changes them. They transform when one has that direct experience. So God is wanting to give us that experience. But when we have that experience, when we actually come in contact with transcendental knowledge, when we come in contact with the holy name, when we come in contact with death, when we come in contact with intense fear, then we realize there is something greater. There's something more. There's something besides just this, mundane life. And one has to have that experience to actually ask these questions.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Very well said. I can go along with that 110%. And just real quick, that was just a reference from a book that Hunter S. Thompson wrote called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So, yeah. So
that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not doing drugs here. No drugs for kids.
Yeah, I got the reference.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to be over 30 years old to get the reference anyway, sure,
apparently not.
No one
it's a cult classic.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cult classic.
We live in a desert here in Arizona.
Yeah. There you go.
So right. I just want to ask one question to maybe bridge a gap that may be there for people. So Kirtan, you're talking about getting to know who God is. I mean, and also, ditto that was. Thank you so much for bringing that through. So there, we can appreciate the getting to know who God is, and I get that Krishna book is about getting to know who God is, but how can we understand how his activities with people 5,000 years ago are relevant? Like, how does the absoluteness of that play out for us who hear about him?
Well, there's different ways that can be answered. And what came to my mind, what my heart tells me to talk about, is different from what I'm going to say first off, and then I'm going to say what my heart tells me to talk about. So from the perspective of, Shastra and scriptural spiritual realization, we have to understand, part of the science of God is understanding the absolute nature of God. And this is what I tell Christians. I tell every people I preach to, that when you're dealing with the absolute truth, everything in connection with the absolute truth is absolute. That's why Krishna's name is Krishna. That's why we chant Hare Krishna. That's why Krishna's prasadam is Krishna. And that's why Krishna's pure devotee, although is not Krishna, is Krishna. Achincha Veda Veda Tattva, simultaneously one with and different. So, when Jesus, who is the pure devotee of Krishna, when he offered the bread and said, "This bread is my body," it's not like that bread turned into a beating heart on the table, and they're drinking blood. No, it's absolute. By spiritual contact, it becomes a spiritualized absolute. So Krishna's pastimes are absolute. They're absolute in nature. So it's not that we're relating to them in a mundane way or as cool stories. We're part of them. And the idea is that I just gave a class. You missed the Bhagavatam class, but this whole class I gave was on Bhakti Rasa. And I was going out of the whole class was out of that Waves of Devotion book by Dhanadhara Swami. And the idea is that, what is it? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, that the soul is, the nature of the soul is that it has love of Krishna in it. Every soul has love of God as its core principle of what a soul is a soul is a lover of God. So the activities of Krishna in this world reflect the relationships that Krishna has with his devotees. Krishna is coming down from the spiritual world with his devotees to play out relationships and to show us how to relate with God as a friend, as a lover, as a parent, as a servant, in a neutral way. So it's described that we're practicing a type of bhakti called sadhana bhakti. We're chanting, we're hearing, we're doing the practice to develop our consciousness. But at a certain point, that vaidhi sadhana becomes raganuga sadhana. And one develops such a taste, an attachment to hearing about Krishna in a certain rasa, in a certain relationship. Like I want to hear about Krishna and Mother Yashoda. I want to hear about Krishna and Radharani. I want to hear about Krishna and Subal and the coward boys. That they begin to relate with God. Imagine that, you're praying to God. We pray to God, oh my God, help me. Oh my God. We say, oh my God, but you're starting to think of God as your best friend, as your playmate. Your consciousness is in that place of thinking of God as your playmate, thinking of God as your lover, thinking of God as your child internally. Externally, you're just like this. You're chanting and you're a sadhaka, but internally you're praying to God in that way. You're laughing with him. So these pastimes are there to deliver this idea that we can love God in a way that's greater. When you understand Krishna's God, Krishna says first, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Mata Sarvabhavartate. He explains that he's the source of everything, all these things. He explains why he's God. But then on a deeper level, he has these activities that he demonstrates in Vrindavan and Dwarka. And we can relate to Krishna in that way. We can relate to Krishna in that way. So this is deeper. This is a deeper level of understanding. So when I was becoming a devotee, these information was coming out, and George Harrison, who, printed this book, he wrote an album called All Things Must Pass, and all these beautiful songs about Krishna are there. And I was, wow, these songs are about God, but they sound like love songs. I never knew you could love God like that. I didn't even know, I couldn't even consider, God was the guy that you groveled in front of in the big chair on the cloud, who would throw you in the pit of fire if you disobeyed him. And all of a sudden, George Harrison saying, I live for you. Every breath I take is for you. Wow, this is like romantic. So these pastimes are there to show us where we're going. And what my heart originally told me to say is, if we can't relate to Krishna's pastimes, Krishna comes again as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the real Yuga avatar. And his pastimes are completely relatable to what we're doing in the Sankirtan movement. Chanting, dancing, and relating with others who love God. That's the ultimate essence of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, is that he's loving his devotees as a devotee. And so it's completely relatable. So Krishna's pastimes are lessons, like the Bhagavad Gita. And, Krishna's life in itself is a lesson that Krishna is, he's going through so much. They send a demon to murder him every day. But he's never phased. Krishna's never, ever down. So there's lessons in that sense. And they're also transcendental realities. So we can understand them on different levels of consciousness. And they're also metaphorical. All three at the same time. Just like we hear, that Dhenukashura, the ass demon, was Balaram killing him, was the slaying of material desires. So they're both metaphorical, practical, and transcendental simultaneously. And we relate to Krishna's Leelas through starting to relate through Lord Chaitanya and his pastime of chanting the holy name. So these things are difficult to understand, but Rupa Goswami, to end with a verse, a scriptural reference, Rupa Goswami says, all right, Atashri Krishna Namadi is a Nabhaved Graham Indriyai, that this name of Krishna, Atashri Krishna Nam, this Krishna Nam, which includes his pastimes, his form, his personality, his activities, Nabhaved Graham Indriyai, it's not understood through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mind, the sense of touch. Krishna's pastimes are understood. Jive Loke, he Jiva Down. By the tongue, by chanting the holy name and tasting prasad, swayam eva sfarat yadaha, one that becomes revealed to him. So it's relishable at all levels. Even a child can relish Krishna's pastimes, even if they don't know he's God. But it still purifies you. Even a dog who's hearing the pastimes of Krishna gets purified.
Wow.
Is that a good?
Yeah, wow. That was amazing. That was some, I would call that deep nectar. That's what I would call that. I would call that deep nectar. Some of that eternal nectar. I might write that down. Eternal nectar. We are completely out of time at this point. Thank you so much, Kirtan. And feel free to join us anytime you can, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Come
I always
on.
enjoy it. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So let's recite the Maha Mantra 3 times and then we will sign off. So go ahead and lead us, Balaram.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All right. Jai Shri Krishna. We will see all you beautiful people later, and have a fantastic life and a fantastic day. And we will see you soon here on the Soul Ashraya podcast. Haribo.
God.